Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of Inside the Club. I'm Belle Fraser, the Utah Hockey Club beat reporter for the Salt Lake Tribune, and today we are joined by another special guest. It's Dominic Moore, analyst for Utah Hockey Club on SEG Networks, and he also spent 13 years in the NHL as a player. Dom, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Great to be with you here, Belle.
Yeah, we were just talking, but the team is on a road trip, and Dom and I are both in Utah. So, with all this free time, I know you're still in the studio, but is there anything you get to kind of enjoy when the team's away?
Well, we have a newborn in the house, so there's always plenty of slack to pick up when I'm home. The good news is that with all this nice weather that's rolled into town, there's some outdoor work to do, some gardening stuff, and fire up the grill as well.
I saw you posted that Twitter video of you playing tennis on an ice rink. Is that a new
Yeah,
thing? What's that all about?
great question. So, since we moved to Utah, I'm a big tennis player and fan, and got connected with the BYU men's tennis team,
Mm.
and their coach, Zach Warren, has been incredibly welcoming. Has me come out and train with some of the guys on the team, which is fun for me. Great exercise.
Yeah.
And then recently they had a home match coming up, and they one of the players on the team, Otto Schreiner, he's a great kid. He's from Minnesota, so grew up playing hockey. And Zach had the idea of getting us on the ice together.
Oh, that's
So we
awesome.
went out there and we had, pucks and sticks, and we're messing around with that. And then we pulled the tennis net out to shoot some fun video of us playing ice tennis, which was actually really fun. That was my first time ever trying it, and it was awesome.
Was tennis something you picked up when you were in the NHL, or was it kind of a post-career thing?
No, I played tennis as a kid, and it wasn't quite back in those days, like 365 days a year of one sport like it is now. So I would play hockey all season and then pick up a tennis racket and play. My dad loved the sport, so play with my brother all summer a lot. We spent a lot of hours on the tennis court, so it was got to be a pretty decent player, even though never really you know, could play it all year round. My freshman year in college, I ended up walking on to the up to the tennis team.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, even though I was recruited for hockey, so that lasted one season, and then the hockey coach went to the tennis coach and said, "We don't want him playing tennis."
Right.
So that was the end of that. But like a lot of things, you want what you can't have. And so my whole career, I was always itching to get on the tennis court. And now that I'm retired from professional hockey, it's my competitive outlet and my passion, and also my workout.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I didn't realize it was a BYU connection. That's really cool. Just the community ties out here.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I just wanted to ask about that. But
hmm
switching over to Utah Hockey Club more specifically, we talked back in September when you first got out here about you getting the job in August and kind of it was a whirlwind and you just started immediately. So from when you accepted that job, still living in Boston, to today in Salt Lake City at the end of March, so what have been some of the biggest things you've learned that have surprised you throughout this journey, now that you have, 6, 7 months under your belt?
Wow. I mean, it's a great question. It's all been so fast that I feel like not until after the season will we really be able to look back, because
Hmm.
it's just been everything's been so present, going from one thing to the next. I mean, from the time that kind of spoke first conversations with Craig Amazine, our executive producer, and uh, in August, late August, really, to making the move out here and getting settled in. To the lead up to the season. I mean, it's been wonderful and exciting, and uh, a lot of work, but all in a great way. Meeting new people and new teammates, getting acclimated to the city and to the organization, and which has been wonderful. The people that we've met so far, that have to do with the Utah Hockey Club, and quite honestly, that was a huge part of why my wife and I decided to move the family, was just we were so impressed by the people um, within the organization. And it always starts at the top. I mean, it starts with Ryan and Ashley Smith. We were impressed with their vision and commitment, all the way down from Chris Armstrong, in the hockey leadership, um, and then on the broadcast side with Travis Henderson and Craig and everyone that they've brought on board. It's been a wonderful ride, but once that puck dropped on the opening day, it feels like it's been a sprint.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of crazy now that it's in the final stretch. You're like, it feels like yesterday, but also 5 years ago too, when you think back to opening night.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure your experience has been pretty similar. I mean,
Yeah,
moving out and getting settled in and then all
yeah.
hands on deck. Yeah.
No complaints.
Yeah.
Wasn't your first, obviously, broadcast or analyst role. You're with NBC and ESPN previously, but kind of covering games throughout the league. So, what's it been like kind of having such an up close view of one organization, one team, one group of players to kind of zoom in on in your coverage as an analyst?
Yeah, I mean, it just makes it to me so much better because you start to know the team and the players, and you have such a good feel of the daily ups and downs and narrative that goes within the team on all different fronts. And um, I'm so in tune with that, even though it's been a couple of years since I retired, kind of getting back into that rhythm just helps me as an analyst because I'm in the rhythm of the season, just like
Hmm.
the players and the coaches are, and have that feel there. And um, that's what we've tried to do in our coverage, is just, you know, tell what we see, tell what we feel on a daily basis, and have the Utah Hockey Club supporters kind of follow along with that all throughout the season. And there's ups and downs with it, but that's part of hockey. That's part of the season. Um, it's very different from what I did before on the national broadcast with NBC and ESPN, where you just kind of like parachute in, call a game, parachute out. It's a very different feel. And the other element is just the rapport and camaraderie you develop with your broadcast teammates. And I've been very thankful and fortunate, uh, to be surrounded by an awesome group, that, you know, never a day goes by where I'm not thankful for everyone that I get to work with on a daily basis.
It's awesome. We had Matt on and he sang your praises, of course, just having someone who knows the game so closely like you do be able to help educate the Utah fans. That kind of goes into my next question about developing those relationships with the players, finding those storylines that you can talk about on the broadcast. How is it maybe different for you because you played in the league for so long and have been in these guys' shoes? The way you talk to them and are able to create relationships with them. Just how do you view that being a media person now, but also knowing what they're going through?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think a lot of times when it comes to media, there's a protection that comes from the team where they don't feel like they necessarily trust the media. I think I'm very fortunate because I think there's a respect, right?
Hmm.
From what you just described, that the players know that I've been through it, that I've been in their shoes. Um, I try to I try to show that, when I have conversations with them. It helps me in terms of how I talk to them, and when I talk to them. Um, and in some cases I've had pre-existing relationships with some of the players, that helps go a long way. Kerfoot and Marino, and then new relationships that have developed. We discovered there was a connection with Logan Cooley, through, I don't know if you heard that story yet, but when I was about 8 years old, living outside Toronto, my family invited in some junior hockey players to live in our house.
Was Cooley
And
one of them?
so Cooley's uncle, John Mooney,
Uh-huh.
was one of the players that lived with my family for a whole
No
season.
way.
And
How
and
did
then
you guys figure this out?
my first day at training camp, I was in the locker room, and Logan kind of flagged me over, and I had never met Logan before, and he
Hmm.
said, "Hey, do you know John Mooney?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "He's my uncle." I said,
That is so
what?
funny.
So, you know, that's pretty special. I mean, John was literally part of our family, and he ended up teaching Logan to skate. It was a big part of his development to the player he is, along with his parents. And so now when I see his parents, there's a special bond there, and I got
Yeah.
to connect with John when the team went to Pittsburgh. So, anyway, long-winded way of saying that there's a rapport that you develop with the players, which is great.
I didn't know that. That's really funny. Hockey world always feels like the smallest world too.
It
So
is
another example of
100%.
that.
Yeah.
Are there any guys that you've talked to or gotten to know this year that you kind of see yourself in as a player in terms of, I don't know, their role in the team or kind of what they're going through?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, a lot of times throughout the season, it was Alexander Kerfoot because he's a versatile player, similar to what I was, who's called upon a lot defensively,
Hmm.
um, and as I was, and then also feels like he's got more that he can give offensively. And, if you look at Kerfoot's season, like he's probably not scoring as much as he would like or as he has in the past. Knows he's capable of it, but also has embraced that role that the coach has asked him and has done it really well. And I'd say that there's a similarity in that respect from my experience as a player.
Had you known him just through Harvard hockey too before coming out?
Yeah, speaking of just the small networks, just that network is pretty small, and relationships build through that. He's been around in Boston in the summers and skated with them, or you know uh played played tennis with him and his brother various times, ping pong. He's come to my charity event a couple times. So great family, the Kerfoot family, and it's been great to get to know them.
Love it. Throughout your career, you played for 10 teams, correct?
Correct.
So, does anything stick out about the Utah Hockey Club locker room? I mean, you've seen a lot of different dynamics throughout
Mhm.
your career. Just maybe what's something about Utah or the guys in that room that kind of, yeah, sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean it seems remarkably uh like like cohesive. I mean, I'm not in the locker room, hearing all the banter that goes on behind closed doors every day. I'm in there from time to time. But from what I've seen, it seems like a remarkably close group. A lot of times, listen, there's pressure, there's stress, there's competition, internal competition. Teams have clicks, not necessarily bad clicks, but just people walk in different groups. And this group seems remarkably, like as one group. And I know the coaches have talked about that, but I really think that's the case. And that's got to be an asset for them going forward. I think they're growing and learning together.
From your experience in this final month of the regular season, Utah's kind of kept themselves in the race, even though it's looking a little bit more out of the picture for playoffs, but playing meaningful games right now. Just what are those conversations and mindset to keep that final push going from when you were a player that, you imagine is happening in Salt Lake?
Yeah, I mean, I think the players have really just relished playing in these pressure games. I mean, at the end of the day, whether it's the guys that were in Arizona or the new guys, they don't want to be irrelevant in March.
Hmm.
They want to be in the conversation, and it's a credit to them and the coaching staff that they are. They've there's definitely been some low points to the season, some massive points of frustration what the team has gone through where they wish they could have performed better. But there's also been a ton of high points. And when you look at the balance of the season, it's been a really great trajectory of growth. Not just in terms of the young players, Cooley and Gunther obviously come to mind and their growth and career years that they've had, but I mean, we've seen growth from Clayton Keller. I mean, he's a better player than he's ever been. And I feel like that's just going to continue as everyone kind of grows. And the last part of it is just the character development, learning how to win, learning to face adversity. um, regardless of how this season turns out, I think there's going to be a lot of experience gained that the team can take into next year and then hopefully continue to level up.
Yep, I agree. I imagine for you, the decision to retire after 13 years, kind of leave what you know is a challenging one. Now that you get to kind of cover a team, is it fun to still have your hand in it, or is it almost hard where you're like, I wish I could, be playing in against the Vancouver Canucks right now in a game that has playoff implications? Like, what's that balance of being around the game, but not being directly in it right now?
Yeah. It's funny. I love being around. I love being able to teach the game and share my love for the game, which is extremely special in this new community, this new
Yeah,
relationship that's developing with the fans. I mean, that's something I really cherish. I I don't really have the desire to be on the ice like in these games. I've played a lot of memorable games in my career, was very fortunate to play over 100 playoff games and playing the Stanley Cup Finals, and I'll look back extremely fondly, as you know, Belle, as a Ranger fan that you grew up as, playing lots of great spring, late spring, even summer hockey in at Madison Square Garden. But I'm in a stage of life now where I'm happy to root for the guys on the ice and teach the game as we go along. It's a little safer up in the booth too. I don't have to worry
yeah.
about losing my teeth anymore.
Right. I was gonna say with the trajectory of the Rangers since you left, I think your Game 6 goal is still probably everyone's favorite memory in the last 10 years. They haven't given much more since that run. So it's safe to
Yeah, it's
say,
always it's always fun when I'm back there and hear from fans that it's hard to believe it's already been almost 11 years since that
yeah,
that goal. So uh,
wild.
yeah.
In that vein, what's it like seeing teammates from that team and other teams kind of come through Salt Lake City? Like Matt Zuccarello was here, Ryan McDonough was just here,
hmm
and you're all kind of in a different season of your life. What's it like kind of crossing paths now?
Yeah, it's great. I think, as time goes by, you're able to look back, more fondly at those moments. When you're in them, there's a lot more pressure and stress, and you maybe even disappointment that
Mhm.
you didn't win, for example, in 2014. But as time goes by, you just look back on it at this journey that you were on together as teammates and the relationships that you had. Seeing Matt Zuccarello when Minnesota came through town is great. He's a guy that just brought a ton of smiles in the locker room, and honestly, that's what I remember more than anything, being his teammate, his jokes and his easygoing personality around the room. And same with the other teammates that I'm fortunate to, and that's another part of, what's great about staying involved in the game is you get to have these moments where you run into old friends.
Yeah, selfishly, it's fun, I think, for all the reporters to see their like childhood players and teams come through Salt Lake. But yeah, it's cool
Yeah,
for you that you actually get to catch up with them
yeah.
before the game and stuff.
Kreider, I would put in that department as well. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, totally.
yeah.
That was cool again for me
Unfortunately,
seeing.
he ended up scoring the game-winning goal
Yeah,
against Utah at the Delta Center, but he's the only remaining
I
Ranger
was
from
about
my
to
time there.
say,
Yeah,
yeah. I remember
yeah.
someone posted a picture of, I mean, I'm sure you know it, that team on that plane, and they blurred out all the faces who are gone, and Kreider's the last one
The
standing
only
now.
one. I hadn't
Yeah,
seen that, but that's sad. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Wild. Anyways,
Yeah.
flipping back to Utah, thought we could go through some superlatives for the team, just give your opinion on some labels.
Okay.
To start, who do you think has been the most improved player in your eyes?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. Um, I'd say Cooley. I mean,
Mhm.
the finalists would be, believe it or not, Keller, and Kesselring. They come to mind in terms of uh, worthy of mention. But I think for me, when I showed up and Logan Cooley, when I was asking him about his game, because I hadn't really been able to see him play all that much, he told me he wanted to be a two-way player. And I kind of listened to him, but I had my doubts. No, most 20-year-olds that are growing superstars are all offense. You know, you think of Connor Bedard,
Yeah.
a lot of the young players, it's all about producing goals and points. Um, and then as I watched Logan Cooley play and the way he back checks and his, tenacity that he tries to play defensively down low as a centerman, and he really backed it up. And you've seen it even in these big pressure games down the stretch. Like he's been at many points the team's best player all around. And I just think the sky's the limit for him. But what a great season of growth.
So fun to watch too. Like sometimes you're writing
Yeah.
a recap. I'm sure broadcast too, you kind of just get like lost. I'm like, I just want to watch Cooley on the power play. Like I don't
And he's just so
really.
athletic, like the
Yeah.
way he moves, and yeah, he's just we're very lucky that we get to watch him and others play on a nightly basis.
And this summer should be interesting in terms of his long-term stay in Utah. So something to
Yeah,
keep an eye on
yeah,
for fans. Next,
yeah.
biggest surprise or, someone who flew under the radar for you and then popped.
I guess that'll be Kesselring for me because
Mhm.
again, a guy that I hadn't seen more than a handful of times. It was a later round draft pick, acquired from the Oilers. When I looked at the team on paper before I got here, he was more of a quiet name that just didn't jump off the page for me. I'm sure if I had really watched him closely before, I wouldn't have been surprised. But I mean, he is a supreme talent in terms of his natural ability. He's incredibly hardworking. He wants to be a difference maker. Um, Again, like what an amazing acquisition from Bill Armstrong
Yeah.
to you know we had Owen Powers, number one overall pick, of the Buffalo Sabres back in 2022, big defenseman. You know, he was here recently at Delta Center, and I said on the air, if you gave me the option to take Owen Power or Michael Kesselring right now, I would take Kesselring every day of the week. And I really just feel like the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, I think the cool thing with him too is like if he can put it all together consistently, that's a unicorn. He's what, six
Yeah,
seven, can actually skate, has a shot, will fight, will be physical, and is playing with a veteran in Ian Cole, where he talked about how Ian Cole was a father figure to him. So I
yeah.
know Kessering's getting less minutes
Made Ian
now.
Cole feel very
Yeah,
old,
he
but
was like,
yes,
not a brother. We are like, no.
uncle at least. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No, but I think that's a good pick, and I'm definitely excited to see how his role expands in the coming years.
Mhm.
Best interview, someone you go to, morning
Hmm.
skate if you need a good quote or good tidbit for the broadcast.
Uh, I think Liam O'Brien has been
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah, he's incredibly. It's funny, the guys that are labeled as enforcers. A lot of times you just think they're big dumb brutes, but he's the opposite. He's
Mhm.
very great, intelligent, well-spoken, thoughtful guy. Always enjoy talking to Liam.
Love that. I know the locker room feels weird without him right now. He's
It
obviously
does.
out with a lower body injury, but there's less
Yeah,
chirps flying around. It feels like Gunther's stall is a little empty without O'Brien
it
there.
is. Yeah.
Comeback player of the year.
Ah, I mean, it could be any number of Sergachev you would put in that category because he missed so much time last season. And then of course Dursey and Marino. Um, I'll have to give it to Sergachev. I mean, he's just played such a huge role, and he's been a pillar leadership. Just adds so much. I'm going to use the word gravitas, but just heft and presence on the blue line that I think has been a major asset for the Utah Hockey Club all season.
Really. And last one, most valuable player.
Has to go to Clayton Keller for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And it's fitting because again, he probably could have deserved a shout out for most improved.
Hmm.
And I think a big part of it is the drive from the young guys pushing him to get better, but also he's playing with those young guys, and they're collectively, better together. It's really fun to watch that process. And then of course, as the whole team gets better, you know, that'll continue to drive Keller to new heights. So that journey will also be fun to follow for next season.
It's got to be fun for him to have somewhat of a supporting cast at this point in his career, because for so long it
Yeah,
was kind of the Clayton Keller show and team, which is great. But he's talked
yeah.
so much about, like you said, like loving playing with Cooley and Gunther, and
He wants to be surrounded by great players.
yeah,
He wants to compete with them to be better. He doesn't want them to
right.
upstage him because that's just the kind of competitor he is. But he also wants to have them because he knows that they'll all be better off at the end of the day by pushing each other.
It's funny how he and Gunther have bounced back and forth with most goals on the team. Every other game, it feels like one scores and then they tie it, and then I think
Yeah,
Gunther's ahead by
exactly.
two right now. But we'll see how Keller finishes the season.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of connected to that, just looking forward, future of this team with the players they do have and maybe the ones they'll bring in. From your perspective, just where's the room for growth, or what kind of needs to bridge that gap between Utah fighting for its life at this time of the year and, maybe
Mm.
being in a comfortable spot?
Wow, it's going to be a tough one to answer. I mean, the good news is that the team has the flexibility going forward to add players as they need to. I don't necessarily see that as a case where you need to overspend on a free agent unless it's the perfect fit. Everybody's going to continue to get better. Um, I think I think it's just like continuing with the maturity. And I think the first couple months of the season next year will be crucial, and understanding that, even in October when the finish line is very far away, how urgent you have to play, if you want to be there at the end. And I think that's part of the next phase of maturity for this team is that in October and November, when it just seems like maybe these games aren't quite as important, that they are,
Yeah,
and that you understand that. And having gone through a season like this season, you look back and you say, boy, a couple points here or there could have been all the difference. And then all of a sudden, a game after Thanksgiving, you come and you're just like dialed in.
yeah.
So um, maybe that's something to look out for. But we're ways away from that right now.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I think they have the most overtimes in the NHL. You think about the amount of
yeah,
points lost there, and it's funny in our comments, fans say exactly what you say. They're like, "Oh my gosh, like that game in December, like imagine if we won it."
yeah,
And of course, you want Utah fans to see wins and see a
yeah,
playoff berth, but I think that's part of it where you feel the like angst and heartbreak of giving up a
yeah,
lead in a third period so many times in October and November and how it comes back to bite you. But it's
yeah,
lessons learned, and teams
yeah,
don't get there without going through that. So if fans are
exactly.
upset about the standings right now, I think that's the bright side you take from it in the bigger picture of things.
Big time.
um Lastly for you, Dom, what's been your best memory or favorite game you've called
Mm.
this season in Utah?
Wow. I think. Well, we didn't get to call the inaugural game, so that's a
Right.
shame. We were there and we called it just internally, so that was a big thrill calling our first game together, me and Matt at Delta Center. We'll never forget that, and all the pregame, festivities and the flyover. That was incredible experience. I think calling my first game for Utah Hockey Club at Madison Square Garden, my old stomping grounds, and Clayton Keller getting an incredible dramatic OT winner was a highlight. You know, calling there's just so many that the Veggie's memorable night where he
Yeah.
stole the game from Carolina was a great one. But I think just so many moments, even just traveling on the road with our broadcast group and just getting to know everybody better and spend time with them. Those are some of the things I'll look back on very fondly from this inaugural season.
Love it. I know I said last one, but just a quick follow up on that. You mentioned your newborn son, and I know you have two daughters too. What's it been
Yeah,
like, for them and for the family to see you in the hockey space? Obviously, they probably don't remember you as a player, but has it been cool to kind of have this experience
it
with them?
it is. It's kind of been their first kind of view of it, because it's been so up close and personal all season with them. And my daughter, oldest daughter's 5 now, so she's more aware. She actually recently participated in her first ever hockey skate,
Oh,
and one of the Utah Hockey Club learned to play skate. So she came out with me. I was on the ice, and
did she
that was a
like it?
blast. She did. She had a great time. So yeah, that's been very special, big time.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining this week. I know you know this, but fans are very appreciative of everything you've done on the broadcast to kind of help Utah become a hockey state. So,
The
um,
other thing I should mention is my 2-year-old. She refuses to take off her Utah Hockey Club t-shirt. She wears them to bed. She wears them
really,
all day. So they are all in. They
that's
are all in, the
awesome.
whole family.
I know
So,
I
but
see them
thank
at the
you. Yeah.
games sometimes and it's very cute.
They're right. Yeah, they're right
They're
by
locked
you.
in.
Yeah.
I
As long
love
as they've
that.
got some ice cream, they're locked in.
I
Yeah.
mean, me too. I need a Delta
Yeah.
Center snack before I can really embrace the work. But Dom, thank you so much for joining this week, and thank you everyone for listening. We will talk to you next week.
Of course, Belle. My pleasure.